Namaskaram. Here I am once again, a fortnight from the February 13th when we met last. And today's episode of Expressions Espresso has a good friend of mine on show, as well as somebody whom you all admire and love. A very happy Sunday evening to all of you. Thank you so much for the phenomenal response to the last episode with Nitya Menon. It is really satisfying to know that so many of you missed the sabbatical of Expressions Espresso and have welcomed it with open arms. The feedback that came in for Nitya Menon's episode was really so encouraging. Thank you very, very much, and keep enjoying this space. Thanks, Nitya, for being with us. And I must tell you that our viewers enjoyed your candid responses and your very true answers. Our guest for today is a multifaceted personality. A gold medalist from the Film and Television Institute, Chennai, and a celebrated cinematographer, director, ad filmmaker, singer, orator, and teacher. He is as accomplished as he is gifted. Known for his exquisite and technically brilliant camera work, Rajiv Menon achieved national recognition for his breakthrough cinematography in the ace director Mani Ratnam's Bombay. The Rajiv Menon production was founded in 1986 when it began producing TV commercials for several national brands. With a keen desire to give back to the industry that nurtured him over the years, Rajiv also founded the Mindscreen Film Institute, a film school that fosters tomorrow's talent by providing comprehensive training across all facets of cinematography, screenwriting, and filmmaking. A passionate teacher, Rajiv has mentored several award-winning cinematographers and directors such as Ravi K. Chandran, Ratnavelu, Rajshekhar, and Gautam Menon during their formative years. A voracious reader, Rajiv spends his free time in his library, where he has stacked up all his books, I think, across all categories. He goes for long walks, which I presume are those moments when he gets those bright ideas and his creativity just flows. He loves dogs, and I think his dogs at home are his best companions, sitting beside him when he wishes to unwind or also joining him on his long walks. While Rajiv is a successful entrepreneur, he's also a connoisseur of the classical arts and has grown up with music, classical music, echoing at every space in his home. Naturally, being the son of the renowned musician Kalyani Menon, my namaskarams to her. There is so much of art and aesthete in his films that they really bring about the desired difference and take him to an elevated level. This evening, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome the talented and dapper Rajiv Menon. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Sudha.
How does it feel to meet someone whom you've known for maybe 3 decades?
Yeah, I think I always remember the first time I had to uh, do a still photography for your CD cover. It was for AVM, and you came and stood and you were I kept saying smile. He says my teeth are not good. You say I can't smile. You used to say that. To now, you're modeling. You're so confident. You're running your own YouTube channel, and you're the Oprah Winfrey of South Indian Carnatic music.
Please,
So
please tell me.
So I think it's a long way. I think you have taken on many roles, teacher, and from a really most gifted singer to becoming uh, one of the doyens of the field. I think it's a great journey for you, and I think I'm very proud of you. And I can always recollect how much we enjoyed recording Mate for Morning Raga.
It's wonderful to hear such appreciative words from somebody whom I admire. So it's new to us. Uh, Now, we have so many questions. I must tell you that we need to really almost rush it because I know your time is precious and we just have 1 hour. But here we begin. We all know that there was a lot of music at home during your formative years, the times that you grew up. Were you also classically trained or did you just imbibe music naturally?
No, I wasn't classically trained. It was my mother was learning, and we would hear her sing and stuff like that. Uh, Briefly, I would sort of kind of sing in the bathroom and things like that. But I wasn't like going for music competitions or anything of that sort. I was more into quiz and cricket and things like that. So I didn't formally learn music, but I was always identify ragas and have this notebook my brother maintained of Sangeet Sarita. What are the Hindustani ragas? What are the film songs in it? Those kind of things were there in our house. But my brother learned more music than I did.
Can you take us through how ad films and choosing music for those films was your initial trailblazing to cinema? Why was it ad films first? And what is the best aspect in each of the genres? You know, ad films on one side, cinema on the other side. And which one of them is more challenging?
Yeah, I think, in art, breakthroughs happen when artistic innovation is combined with a technological breakthrough. So what happened is in the, mid 80s and mid 90s was when color television was taking off in a big way in our Asian games. And because of that, there was a lot of television and national telecast and stuff like that. So what happened is suddenly the quality of the production had to match up with what was coming on television, and so people shot and did all post production on film. So the sound quality was what it was for film, and but the impediments of sound mixing for film, which was saying that it can only take 8,000 hertz, was not there when you came on television. You could actually explore better sound. So when we started collaborating with, music directors in Bombay, first Louis Banks, Vaidyanathan, and all that, the sound was much better in ads than it was coming in films, and people would actually come to the, thing on the ad Paranga. They used to really enjoy that, and that was the time one associated with AR, who was Dilip, and he was breaking through with recording in his own place. So he was not having any of the old set ideas. So music production was what you played on the keyboard and what you recorded finally affected the sound, and therefore good quality sound production became the norm. So using music to communicate an emotion, and not necessarily just jingles, but it could be a background score, could be a sound effect, and those
Hmm.
kind of things. Free flowing composing style had come in, so we were experimenting with all that.
Um, if I might ask you, now, and on ad film, you tell a short, small story within a minute or maybe 90 seconds. How do you
uh,
arrive at?
yeah, it's actually a lot of writing, so you think of many things, and then you try to, bring it down, and try to stay. So I mean, let's take for example the famous Pongal commercial, which sort of made me a national, I mean, recognition, and it was the music was done by AR, and so I mean, it's basically homecoming. A boy is coming back to his house, and I
Hmm.
remembered whenever I went back to Kerala, my the railway station is very close to my house, so by the time you get out of the platform, my grandfather may be there, but my grandmother would be at home, and they would have hired a taxi to take us and the bags in. But by the time that would be loaded, we would have walked fast and we would have come into the house, and my grandmother will be waiting for the gate, and I would come from behind and surprise her. From initially traveling in the taxi to actually coming in, when we were confident enough to walk in the town that we used to go back for summer holidays. That idea, I just put it into the thing about a guy coming and holding his grandmother from behind as the emotional high. Then the land, which was welcoming you. So, Ammamma, Adi Ammamma, Anandam, Idu Ennamma, Veedengum Pudu Vannam, Nadengum Ini Minnum. This composition, Nadengum Ini Minnum, Vannam, and all these kind of things about the whole land is celebrating you, the sense of nostalgia. Now you need to bring it down to shots. Then you also need to come to the house and say the house is painted. Because those days, houses were painted for festivals. So we were trying to bring in a festive idea of house painting with that of what is specific to Tamil Nadu. And, that sort of worked big. The music was a big success, and that helped me gain traction in Bombay and things like that.
So, which, in your opinion, is your best ad film?
Uh,
All of them are your babies, but you can't. But
yeah, I
one
think
time.
they each of it has a period where it has its relevance because it how far ahead of the curve it is at that point of time. But what is ahead of the curve becomes par for the course in a couple of years because others are going to do the same thing, and the same kind of skill sets are going to come into play. There were certain films which were kind of breakthrough, like Asian Paints or say Titan and things like that, where I slowly got known as a guy who handled emotions, and therefore I preferred that. It was just not about style or suitings or saris or something of that sort, but it was not just fashion, but it was emotion. And for me, emotions are very important, and I see everything in the perspective of what it does to the heart, and not only what it does to the eyes. I mean, making something pretty is a skill, but I think if you can move somebody anyway, would be a deeper connect.
Yeah, when there's emotion, you want to go back and see it several times. I understand.
Absolutely.
Bombay was a landmark film with a superb team, the members of which later culled their own paths and diversified to become trailblazers in their own way. What do you think made the group, click or tick and present such an amazing film?
I think it was. I often say it's probably Mani's best film because we were doing something very audacious. One is we were shooting Bombay in Chennai. We were doing riots when Bombay was trying to, sort of put it under the carpet. And this is not commercial. I mean, why do you want to start a film about, Hindu Muslim thing at that time? But Money had already, kind of
Yes.
perfected this formula of uh, a political, unrest, but seen through a personal, story. So Roja is Roja in the sense India versus, the Kashmiri separatist movement, but seen through the eyes of a poor girl who has to save her husband. So it was becoming Satyavan Savitri in that sense, mythological sense. So it had an anchor inside it. So that was his real skill set. And then in Bombay, you almost feel he's fast tracking the film through the love and all that. And then you're saying, why is there such speed in the narration? And then suddenly you discover that they have children because ultimately, when a Hindu and a Muslim women are going to marry, then the question is going to be what's going to be their children, how it's going to happen to them, and they remain secular, but then they are torn apart by the riot, and then how they come back together. It was probably Rahman's best tracks, best because he had really evolved as a composer because Karnalane is so unique as a composition. Uire is super unique, and then you got Hamma Hamma, you got Kuchi Kuchi. I mean, these are like landmark, and then even the background scores are so significant. Tararari, tararari, rahari, rarara, tarira, tarira, tararari, rera, tararari, rarari, re. This is not it is not the city is burning. It is the mother has lost the child. She's searching for the child. So Valsalyam is the emotion to anchor the big emotional story of the mother searching for the children or the father searching for the child. And I think that kind of lateral thinking was so stunning because actually Mani and I were shooting and we had to shoot Hamma Hamma and we went to listen to it and he said, I have not done it. So he said, what? We have to do it like, we have to shoot it like day after tomorrow. He said, Parle. So, but you can hear this. And we heard it and we had tears. I mean, what was this? This track is so brilliant. And it was outstanding. And Rahman at that time was so shy because he had done Karnalane and he had recorded it with Chitraji and it was fine. And I said, what's going to be the BGM? How are you going to do it? So he said, yeah, I'll do it. And he waited for me to go. Because he and I spend a lot of time and he knows I'm very particular if pitching is a little off, So he waited for me to go. He went and he locked the door and told Mani, wait, that fellow is not there. And he went before the mic, switched off the light in the mic because he doesn't want to see himself singing. And he's singing Basani. He's singing that Gamapa Mapa, Gamapa Mari, Rari. So it's his version of Nusrat, which he's doing. And he doesn't want to see himself in the studio mirror. His room was so small and he was so shy. To him now rocking stadiums with 30,000 people and being an Oscar winner is a remarkable achievement. But musically, narratively, writing, art, execution, acting, and Arvind's best performance, Manish Agarwal is so convincing. So altogether, it was, I think, one of Mani's great films. So I'm glad that I got a chance to work on that film, and I took my risks and wanted to go completely realistic on the film and hold the shots longer than what it was being done before. So the risk to reward ratio. If you take no creative risks in your life, you're screwed.
You really stole the words from my mouth. I mean, this movie, I think I've watched it at least 20 times. I've never watched any movie a second time, except for Panchatantram and this one. Yeah. So, and Kannalani, my God, what shots here, what frames you used. And, there's love, there's anguish, there is anticipation, there is anxiety. I mean, how many emotions can you bring through your frames? It's so stunning.
And in that song, there are a lot of things that we are paying ode to. There is a song, a sequence which I really like in a Gurudutt film. Satiya, aaj mujhe neend nahi aayegi, tumhare tere mehfil mein rakh kahan hai. In that, there are certain shots which are long in taking. So, Sundaram Master had composed it, and it was really good. And when we asked him, it's fantastic, he said, Adu Prabhu composed Panirka. Prabhu Deva had composed it, he said. So this girl started dancing, and it was in the evening, and we couldn't shoot it. So next day morning, we said we'll shoot it in backlight. So she comes up, Andam Sara Parvain Begam. That entire shot, or entire charanam goes in one shot. So boop, swish pan, and it's trolleys in, and at the end, Arvind comes from behind, That kind of simplicity is required. When you cut a lot, suddenly you got to pause and it's like in Alapane, you're singing a lot and then you hold your notes long enough as you're going to the Ga and the Vi and the Sa, you hold those notes. And I think a film which is frenetic needs those pauses for you to really absorb what's happening inside the human beings and not cut so much. And all that was there in that film. So it was a kind of perfect blend. Even the editing, I think, of Suresh Urs was remarkable.
One thing that has not changed in AR is his musical modesty, is what you have said once of them.
Yeah.
Having worked with AR during his formative years, and now you see his phenomenal growth, which aspects do you think, because you know music also, you have a very aesthetic way of approaching things. So what do you think sets his music apart as a league of his own?
You know, when you write everything in a song, right? Okay, this is going to be the antara, I mean, Pallavi, this is going to be Pallavi, this is going to be thing. You're going to have this transition and you know everything. Then, recording becomes a routine affair. And especially if you're recording every day, the rhythm section, oh, you got the same guys will play the same thing. So you beat, in the case of MSV and in the case of Raja sir, the rhythm section started becoming a default kind of a rhythm section because they were recording 2 songs a day. Now, and digital recording had come in, so you could, record various parts, then you could change it. It is no more tape. So to exploit that, the recording process became a creative process, meaning you could have an idea, but you could develop it by giving chance to the musician, and not only the singer, even the instrumentalist, to improvise. And then you're not under stress because you're recording in your home. You can record as long as possible. Nobody's going to laugh and say, "Hey, this fellow used the producer's money." There's not going to be that problem. So what happens is that kind of flexibility means you are involving your co-creators, which is the singer, which is the lyric writer, and the instrumentalist into your creative process. So I think you have to be musically modest to do that. If you think you know everything and they are only going to listen to your instructions, it is a kind of high you're getting into, but it's not good for the creative process because I think it's the sawal jawab that you have inside kacheri or music is always an engagement. It's a conversation. It's not a one-way, I mean, I think the medium allowed us for that kind of, can I say, conversation, and he allowed himself intellectually to be there to use technology and his, boyish charm, and he wasn't intimidating, and he was also one amongst the players. So I think all that thing worked from being the genius to being just a buddy. Let's all chill and do the music together.
So I'm going to go back to Bombay with Good Reason, the movie. You are a filmmaker yourself now. So how is it working, or what did you imbibe from the movie?
Yeah, I mean, see, the peculiar thing is I am a very, difficult person to work with because I expect a lot of, preparation, and I prepare very seriously because I'm an academic to a certain extent. So I would study every single press photograph, make cuttings of it, and want to, try to find a new way of doing it. And that was, not discouraged by money. He encouraged it because he knew this guy is going somewhere else. But on the shooting spot, it's a very volatile shooting spot. It's very stressful. And I'm also was kind of a high stress person. So, but then I just found this man was so passionate, of getting this work done. And it's not always exactly, and that's another aspect. When you don't know how to do the shot, doesn't mean you back off. You can still pursue it, and you can still discover a way through. And that would never be there in advertising because I had written all the 20 shots and exactly what I would be shooting. And I hated people who are dithering on a set and trying to find a way through. I don't like that space to be in. I like to be absolutely sure and then go for it. But while working in Bombay, I realized no, maybe that's not necessary. You can let things happen, and you have to. And things like riots, you cannot be fully planned. You got to even cinematically shooting it. So we had studied a lot of killing fields. We had studied a lot of the rioting in Apocalypse Now, and that sense of entropy, letting things, just go off the frame and come back was really interesting, and handheld and all that kind of not so precise. And you could deal with all those emotions that you are not dealt with in advertising, which was, despair, loss,
Right.
and even a song like Uire. They two are meeting, but they fear that the storm, the society which is non-existent in the frame, but everything is going to go against them, and that plea that with which the song is being sung that emotion has to come out. So it's actually through camera moves and what is happening, and why are they singing like that, like a rock video, and why do they finally only just come together? They are not dancing on the meadows and things like that. So I think those elements were really interesting to explore. But you must have a intent. I mean, you must have an intent to change the status quo, and that is strongly there in Mani. And Mani was at his zenith of his skill sets, because he was really trying a lot of things, and then these collaborators were also in. I think there is that that touch which whatever. I mean, it was always magic coming out, and that passion that I learned from him was something. You look up to him like an elder brother in that sense.
Right. Right. A cinematographer who is not interested in the script cannot go beyond operative camera level, is what you have been quoted saying. So, how important is it for you to get into the skin of the storyline? And how do you think it elevates the actual presentation?
I completely believe in that, and that's the reason why my filmography is pretty limited. For a person of my success, I should have been doing a lot more films, but that's not the reason. The reason is I must be completely convinced that I want to put 6 months of my time in this story. And even if I have a little doubt, it's not my job to go on the set and argue with the filmmaker as to the story is not working. And it's a very painful process, because no filmmaker wants his cameraman to come and tell him, I don't think this film is working or not working, because they get irritated. So you don't need to do that. So don't do it if you don't like the story. But do it, and fully do it, if you believe in the story. And if you believe that certain things are said and spoken, but there's a lot of things which are not spoken, then it's your job as a cinematographer to somehow find a way of bringing it, and also, you know, giving that film a new visual feel that makes people feel they've gone to a new place. Because new is so important in cinema. You cannot, you can do the most successful film, but if you made it like a film before, then people are not going to come to the theater. That the fact that is it new is the question you're asked all the time.
So, Minsara Kanal in 1997 that you directed was such a big blockbuster, winning 4 national awards. My God. What do you feel was the biggest differentiator? The newness.
Actually, it was again. I mean, music was very important, and I felt we didn't have a musical as such. And in a musical, you cannot have logical problems discussed in a musical. I feel musicals derive from something that cannot be spoken. And there is that element is very important. So in Phantom of the Opera, they both can't meet. So he may be ghost, he may be in the opera, and then that angst is what you sing about. So I think there is something that cannot be done by conversation. So the basic thing in a in a in a musical, I feel, must have some element of a conflict which is unique. And in this particular case, it was comic. I mean, so we very often hear in school that somebody says, just go and tell the chick that, I'm crazy about you. I can't go and tell her. And the guy who goes and tells her, invariably the girl is going to fall in love with him. And this is something that I've heard and seen in school. And that's exactly one of the ideas that we had. But to say that a nun is going to fall in love with a hairdresser, and there's a really handsome guy who falls in love with a girl, but the girl wants to become a nun. Now, normally you expect the girl's father to be a problem or her brother to be a problem or something. But what if she is in love with God? Then who do you fight with? I mean, you can't get upset with your God, right? It's nothing wrong. So all these are new things which had not been discussed. But you have, books which have come out which deal with the agony of a man who was the husband of Mirabai in Cuckold. I mean, what does he do when Mira is in love with Krishna and he thinks that, what did I do? Krishna is getting all the attention that my wife doesn't give me or doesn't feel fit for me. So they have all been explored in Indian, stories and before. But when you take it in that, so the setting is in this kind of fantasy space which has carnivals and color and uh, green meadows where she's studying and red brick cathedrals and from there when you are actually coming, so the motives of the thing are very stylized. So while doing that, I think it was the first time I was really directing that film, and it was completely studio driven. So in that sense, I was paying ode to the 1950s kind of singing in the rain and all that kind of Broadway musicals, which I found very fascinating. And those musical influences come out in Strawberry Contain kind of thing. So that you can actually tell a story while you talk, and so we were experimenting a lot with those musical genres in that space, and it was also very youthful and crazy, and saying most zany things in lyrics. அதெல்லாம் ஓகே, நோஸ் தான் கொஞ்சம் ஓவர் சைஸ், என் மூக்கு எனக்கு தெரியுது ஆக படைத்தவன் அவன் மூளை எதுக்கு தெரியுது. So that kind of um, can I say exuberance is what is still missing. So people keep asking, why don't you make Minsara Karavat 2? Well,
How do you arrive at the cast? I'm really curious to know that.
you see, actually, ABM had fixed Prabhudeva because he had, done well, and they decided to go with him. And they were looking for basically a director, and they wanted A.R. Rahman to do music. And I was his friend, and I used to shoot quite a bit in ABM, and I knew Mr. Gohan as a friend, and we used to meet often. And so it was basically I was mediating for them to sort of, and for some reason, AR was reluctant because he was working with Shankar and Maniratnam, and also he said that is a different kind of filmmaking style. I said, see, whatever it is, just go and tell them what your ideas are. They just want to meet you, so just go and meet them. So he went there, and then he said, who's the director and all of it. And then suddenly he came out and said, you tried to get me locked up, I got you locked up. And they said, why don't you be a director? That's how I got involved in it. And then they said, okay, now we got this guy. Can you come up with a story, which is fun, musical, and things like that? So then I thought of this crazy thing, and I thought they would really find this wacky. But Mr. Sharavanan liked it. He said, develop it into a script. So in 1 month's time, the script was written. Then I had to meet the Archbishop of Madras. So they organized a meeting, and can you believe it? We can actually go to the Archbishop's office and give the script and say, sir, I have a script. I want you to read it. He says, what? It's about a girl and who wants to become a nun, who falls in love with somebody. So he asked me, where எதுவுமே script கிடைக்கலையே, இதுதான் பண்ணணுமா? He said, sir, sound of musicல இப்படிதான் இருக்கு sir. Okay, அப்படி இருந்தா வெச்சுக்கோ. அப்புறமா, and actually the Archbishop called one bishop and a friend, a father read it, and they said, you can make the film. Only then we could make it. But today, I don't know whether that film can be made, Everybody's become so touchy about everything, So it was that fun, the joy with which you create art is now people live in, I have different ideas about all this.
So Kandukondin, a Tamil adaptation of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility that you directed, was also taken to a lot of international platforms. How do international audience react to a film as thus, which has so much color, vibrancy, and at the same time, it has serious and dark tones?
Yeah, I think, I mean, Austin was sort of was a breakthrough. It's in that Regency period where industrialization is starting, but the rural life is changing, and people are still thinking that you have to get married, and that's the only thing. Women don't have voting rights, don't have property rights. So the only thing that you can do is to get married to a man. But yet they had got educated, they had started writing, and they wanted to write. So there was a need for self-expression, but property and economic rights had not come. So you have to understand the sociology from where she was coming. But now if you just say that it's just about women wanting to get married, as some other films have done of Austin, then it's very boring. So you've got to rewrite the human conflict from a writer's point of view and say, what if I do it here? How will that be? So there's certain aspects of that story you take, and then you weave in what those characters are into this. And they were really, I mean, BBC and Guardian had always mentioned that is one of the most lush, vibrant adaptations of Austen. And there are article written in one of the feminist websites which said that this is the most gender neutral film that we had. I mean, I didn't think so much. I did feel that it has to be something, because I was moving from the fantasy to the real to a certain extent. So I was moving to a real conflict. So most of the ideas there are based on that.
Even here, the choice of cast, Srividya, Mammootty, Aishwarya Rai,
Mm.
Tabu, Abbas. I
Yeah,
mean, it was such a contrast. Each one was in a space of their own. I think
yeah,
that really makes for the success of the film too, in a way.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, since you are, MLV's musical daughter, I remember asking her once if we were, I think, waiting for, I mean, we had finished lunch and we were waiting for a shot at 3:34. So Ash and Tabu, all of us were sitting around in the courtyard, and we asked Srividya Madam to sing, and she sang so well. And I think it is Adukulle in the Padatam that she sang. It was a Padam, I remember. And everybody said it was like absolutely fantastic. So it was that kind of that house, to hear that lady's talent. And there was so much of that kind of, can I say, that angst of having loved somebody, gone, produced two or three children, and now my father doesn't know what's going to happen to me. And that the lines of Sujata sir and the way she performed it
Mm.
really set the story. I mean, they are emotionally in trouble. They're not financially in trouble, they're emotionally in trouble. And that emotional trauma, and the two sisters having completely different views on love and marriage, uh, they drove the film. And then musically also you could explore all of that. And I was, one thing I can claim credit is I was absolutely certain that I wanted Shankar to sing Yenasula Pogirai. I mean, so Hariharan had sung Kandukundain, Kandukundain. And at that time, there was a feeling that Shankar's voice is more aggro, and they're both similar. They both come from Bombay. But, this was mellifluous. But I just loved the kind of persuasive quality in Shankar's voice, and he just aced that song, Santana Tendril. And even compositionally, some of the stuff, and I just drove him completely mad, saying that you had to be Natakunji, Natakunji, Natakunji. I just went, because we had done Natakunji for a brew commercial, so he had said, and then he said, I can't compose it. Why can't you make it Kamads? Why can't you make it something else? I said, no, you have to. And finally, he cracked it. So there is a lot of musical collaboration, and there are sort of kind of musical hurdles that you put, and you get over it. And there's something new happens to the composer and new happens to the singer, and then there is magic. It was that magic was there in Kandukuntain, and the performers, like I had to tell Ash so many times that she has a habit of becoming straight and moving ahead, like just relax and just be sloppy. people will still look at you. And then when you're telling her that, you have to look at Tabu and say, yeah, you're just looking fantastic and all that. Then you look at the Srividya madam and she'll look away and says that, yaar, enne paaka porange. No, you look good. Once you finish all that, you find Shalini is looking down. So you just say, so four women inside the frame and managing everybody is like some other
See,
level of.
with the celebrity guest, we usually offer them a salve or we give them a bouquet of flowers. So I'm just, since you said Natakurungi, I'm just going to sing a few strains of Natakurungi. கருத்த குழலோடு நிறத்த மயிலிறகிறுக்கி அமைத்த திறத்திலே கருத்த குழலோடு நிறுத்த மயிலிறகிறுக்கி அமைத்த திறத்திலே கான மயிலாடும் மோன குயில் பாடும் நீல நதியோடும் வனத்திலே குரல் முதல் எழிலசை குழைய வரும் இசை குழலோடு விரிவித களத்திலே கதிரும் மதியும் நயன விழிகளிரு நளினமான சலத்திலே காளிங்கன் சிரத்திலே.
So sweet.
What inspired you to do a film fully on percussion? Sarvam Thaalamayam.
I just did a documentary with Umayalpuram sir, and M.A. Baby is a great fan of Umayalpuram, and he used to keep telling me that.
The part the documentary link பண்ணி I said that must have really inspired him.
Yeah, and it was purely M.A. Baby's insistence, and Baby kept telling that he's the last of the Mohicans, and well, I don't know that much about rhythm at that time. So, I mean, you sitting in Music Academy for maybe 20 years now, listening to kacheris in the same, pretty much the same seats will be. And we can see the kacheri change. But when this man plays, it's just magic, and he's erect, he doesn't bend, and he just gently touches. He's not doing all this drama, and it's just flowing. And he seemed to know what the singer is going to sing. That's all that I knew. He seemed to know what the singer is going to do. So the kolpunu solradhu irukla, that like the kacheri like just would take off. I really don't understand Taniyavarthanam to do all that. I mean, and I dislike Pallavi's singing, and I hate the end of it. But this way he plays it was so interesting for me that I said, okay. Then I went there, but then he's a very difficult man. People are, oh my God, how are you going to deal with him? But to me, he was most open. And then when I met his Mridangam repair chap, and suddenly Johnson is in his house. Johnson is coming with him to Tanjavur. Johnson is everywhere. Who's this Johnson, man? I mean, what is it? And then you realize, oh shit, he's Johnson, and he makes his Mridangam. I didn't know it, and then I started understanding. Oh, okay. There's this subculture that we are unaware of. And what if Johnson's son wants to play? What if he becomes the Yeshudas of Carnatic music? I mean, anything can happen in music. You can never know, where the next great genius is going to come from. And that, I think, is what makes music really work. I mean, whoever thought that some guy who's fiddling around with some, keyboards and repairing and studying in Padma Shishadri and, then struggling to play keyboards is going to become the greatest music director in our country, who's going to change the way sound is, change the way everybody composes music. AR has had such a big impact. So nobody can predict where the next, or where Elayaraja came from, or where, Yeshudas came from. Any of these people are people who are outliers, and they come from, breakthrough comes from there. I mean, conventional artists will come, but breakthrough will always come from an outlier. And that's what I was trying to do.
Giving back to society made you launch a film school whose vision is to foster tomorrow's talent. Tell us about that.
You see, my grandmother was a physics teacher, and my grandfather, my father's mother was an English teacher. So we have teaching on both sides, and my grandfather was a mathematics teacher, and everybody in our family is a bunch of teachers. And my grandmother was quite upset that I was going to get into cinematography. She was convinced that I'm very good in physics and I should be doing something academic, and I'm very interested in physics even now. So, I mean, if you Like there are times where I sit and look at my children's physics book when they were young, and I would be enthralled just reading the physics textbook. I mean, I'm as nerdy as I can get. But my approach to photography is also, in that sense, scientific. So I like to be really on top of something scientific. Yeah? I don't like to be, and I hate it when people say some stupid words which really don't know what it is, and they just mumble through and say something that gets on my goat. So I like to be on, really understand what it is and explain this to people. So if I don't know, I'll tell them I don't know. I'll come back. So it used to happen during the institute itself while I was studying that some of my classmates would ask me questions and I would explain to them. And over the years, you have, I mean, I'm not being dogmatic of what I think, but I'm thinking you should have that sense of curiosity,
Right.
in the way you explain. So if you end up teaching quite a few of the cinematographers like, Ravi or Ravi, I mean, like Randy, RD or Gautam, all of them, what you're trying to get them is to just look in a certain direction and then find your own way out of it, not necessarily make films like me or anything of that sort. So my whole process to teaching is to see it as a way of looking. And then I was very fortunate that a person who was involved with teaching me, Mr. Nyan Shekharan, came on board as a dean. And so we have some powerhouse faculty inside that. And we continue that process of, can I say, uh, teaching by not rote, but by an experiential way of looking at teaching. And teaching has changed so much, and it is changing all the time. And our syllabus changes every 2 years because technology is changing. So there's no point teaching things which are irrelevant. So I take teaching as a very, very serious activity, not only to foster to society, but because I need to learn. The day I stop learning, I'm finished.
Right.
So I have to keep learning. It's like you singers, you know everything, but you have to do sadhagam, right? You have to maintain your voice. So what does
Yes.
a photographer do? He doesn't keep shooting, but you must. You must keep shooting and you must keep learning and you must feel excited every time you take the camera in your hand. And I think that is what I enjoy when I meet young people and teach and discuss with them, that you become a student again.
I want you to tell me what some words about the Tamil audience. தமிழ் ஆடியன்ஸை பத்தி ஏதாவது சொல்லுங்க. என்ன நீங்க எப்போதுமே சொல்லியிருக்கீங்க, தமிழ் ஆடியன்ஸ் வந்து ஒரு ஷார்ட் பிடிச்சது அப்படின்னு தியேட்டர்லயே எழுந்து கை தட்டுவாங்க. அதை பத்தி
Yeah.
நிறைய
If you go to Kerala, they'll say, "Padanala, korpoile." That's the korpoile is an attitude in Kerala. Oh, okay. Again, the part. Korpoile. This is how an average Malayali will react. Not bad. No, no, oh, wow, it's superb. They're not going to say that. Whereas I remember in Titanic, we're watching Titanic, there's some sequence where the ship is going, it was twilight. And in the foreground, there was dolphins jumping. From 5 rows, we go, one fellow gets up, he's clapping for dolphins jumping in that thing. He's so excited by it. So I say, I'm sure that Titanic has been seen in some 50 odd countries, 60, but I'm sure nowhere else people have clapped for the dolphin. They may have clapped for some sequences with Kate Winslet. They may have clapped for that lovemaking sequence. They may have cried when he slipped into the dead, but not for the dolphin. But I hear people will do that they enjoy the shot so much. They enjoy good shots. And I remember in Bombay when Manisha leaves the house and she just goes away, and that shot is held for around 2.5, 3 minutes, and she's leaving the house, and the mountain is behind, and we have lit it, and you can sometimes see her, and sometimes she's in silhouette, and she runs across. The shot is held. After 30 seconds, 40 seconds, people realize she's going to run. And then the audience starts clapping, man. It is electric. He knew that by the third reel, the audience were full. After Uire, they were completely in love with the film. So now you can tell anything, and they were there. And that's just a shot being held, no dialogue, nothing. Just a bare minimal music, and she's leaving the house. And it's actually fearful. What's going to happen to her? We don't know. But the shot beauty and that picture postcard life she's going to lead. and go to this wretched city which can tear them apart, but yet give her love and children. That is the leaving of this environment to the next environment. You have to hold it, and that holding or that shot, people were clapping for. I mean, I don't think this happens in any other thing. So you're blessed to be able to make films for the Tamil audience, because Tamil audiences really love the visuals, and they love their music, and they love to express their appreciation, and I quite enjoy that.
Cinema இப்ப தனியா எடுத்து வச்சிருவோம். சங்கீதத்துக்கு வருவோம். What led you to do your recent solo, Kadavulum Nanu, that had some stunning visuals and meaningful lyrics by Karki, and
Yeah.
and music composed by you, sung by you?
I didn't. I mean, what happened? I had done one song in a show that Karki and Anil Srinivasan were doing on Zee TV, where you would compose and make a song on the show. So I mean, and G.V. Prakash and his wife were there on some show. And, I mean, they had music composers. They would actually do it. So I and Srini had gone together, and we did a song, and it was pretty obvious that we were doing the song right there. It wasn't planned. So Karki said, "Hey, there is a composer in you," and all that. And then we did Varalama. But Varalama is a song that sort of came while I was writing, because I don't know, at that time was listening to a lot of Kedara Gaula, so I was fascinated. There are moments in my life where I keep on listening to every other singer's raga. I'll just keep on, like, every morning when I come to, it will be some ragam or somebody, which starts obsessing me. So
Lovely.
that obsession, there's a recording of M.S. Villakshmi in that some Pittsburgh Venkateshwara, some temple charity concert or something, and she sings Saraguna Palimpam, and I've heard 3 Saraguna Palimpas of her, right when she was young and a little later, and then this. And this is electric, the way she sings that. And it's so brilliant, And so I had that in mind. And then when I was writing it, I had Varugalamo, which is on the other side at Panji. And there was this hope that I wanted. So something about Kedara Gaula is so strident. It's this hero who's coming on stage, and, you expect S.G. Kittappa to really drive that raga too, So that kind of ideas that you had, that Veera Rasam is there inside thing. So just experimented, and it sort of fell in place. So he knew that. So when he had written these songs, he just gave it to me, and so this is the most controversial song that you can land yourself in. But I thought that if you compose it in really good, strong bhakti raga, then you can see the thing working. And I'm always a fan of Kamboji, and I mean, I really like Hari Gamboji, because I'm always curious if it's just Shankarabharanam or Hari Gamboji when the Alapane starts, and most people sing Shankarabharanam, and the ratio would be like 7:3. 7 times you're going to hear Shankarabharanam, then 3 times of Hari Gamboji, and then in that also most of the times it will slip to Kamboji, and very few people, you enjoy that process, and you're listening carefully as to why all Tamil kind of tunes coming out of Hari Gamboji, and all the janyas of Hari Gamboji. So you have kind of listened to that, carefully. But composing, again, you got to tell that, oh no, I don't want to make it like this song. I don't want to make it like that song, And so it's just a process that when you compose, you got to be aware of all the other important songs in that raga, and try to say, okay, I don't want to start like that. I want to start something else. That curiosity is what makes composing very interesting. So,
but எடுத்த உடனே அந்த எடுப்பு, that was the way of Kamboji. I mean, a true way.
Yeah, because some of the people who have done Kamboji, I kind of really like. I mean, I just love that composition, But I really get excited when it goes to Bhulokam, Vaikuntham. That portion is my point that I really like. But I also get very fascinated when I hear Ma Janaki, So that when the Swaraksharam is good and the composition becomes interesting, then it looks very good. So when I had this line and I was telling this to my mother, mother saying that it's Charanam start, she's like,
Yes. Yeah,
so
actually, when I listen to it, have you heard
yeah,
Thiruvannamalai?
yeah.
அனுதினம் கணக்கெழுத.
தொல்லையாகுமோ
Yeah. So
ஹரஹரா என்று
that was
சொல்.
written.
Yeah, yeah. So Tiruvadi Charanam is really the one of the best, that. And I had, uh, probably listened to maybe 10 to 20 Madurai Maniyer, Kamboji's. I just love his Kamboji, and I keep listening to it, and especially this chromatic descents that he used to have, it was so interesting to me musically, So I would just keep playing his after he climaxes, and how he would reconcile is so different from the others. I think it's like the way a Western fiddle would play, and some of his descents are quite unique. So it was based on these ideas that I came, but uh, it was an interesting experience.
Sure, I would imagine that. Now we're going to run into a few quick rounds on the firing range.
Yeah.
Music to you is
I think music is like sunrise. Every time you see the sunrise, it's so fresh. So you welcome the sunrise every time in Marina. Bad day, good day. Music is like that. The sun rises for me in my heart.
beautiful analogy. The maximum retakes you have done for any shot.
Oh my God. There was once, I think, a film for Brew or something where, when you do Brew commercials, the coffee has to be there and there is smoke and the person has to drink it. I don't know what happened that day. And the coffee is cigarette smoke. So by the time you do 10 takes, the coffee smells of cigarettes. And so I had this person takes coffee and she has to say something. So, okay. Then this cigarette smoke going into the nose, and then the coffee so bad. Then we throw this coffee and bring it back. And this lady, it really doesn't like cigarette smoke. But if you give, then she said, "Give it to me hot, give it to me hot." So okay, we'll have it hot. The boiling hot is put the she's burnt her tongue. Then you put water and cool. My God, it went on for 50 takes, and after I think in the 48th take we got it. Then they said, now we have to do Telugu, now we have to do Kannada, now we have to do Malayalam. Oh, that day was a disaster. So I said, don't. The coffee will be cold. You will act like you're having it, but the smoke will be cigarette smoke. Just have it. So we've had some really funny days shooting coffee commercials.
What is creativity in just one line?
I think it's always remaining on the child in you. I mean, keeping your childlike. Creativity is not an intellectual exercise. It is actually what you enjoy, and I think you have to keep it there. And enjoyment is as a child. What the taste you colored and painted, and you felt happy. You're not doing that because you're going to win an award.
Yes.
Just the joy of doing some coloring with some stupid thing, and maybe your mother will put it up on the uh, you know
Wall.
magnet of the refrigerator for some days before it falls off, but you felt totally happy. I think creativity, you have to be in that state to have your childlike um, joy of doing things for no particular reason.
Which is your favorite thinking spot in the house?
Walking. I love walking and waking up in the morning. Sometimes I'm just desperately recording some tune or something that is coming my way. I got new tunes now, so it's like
Your choice of cuisine?
I like Italian. I like it because it's got tomatoes and all this spice, and I like it because it doesn't have too much masala. I love Indian food, but I like to make Italian food.
Do you think your pets make a difference to your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they always like me, irrespective of how bad my days or how horrible I'm as a human being. They always wag their tail and they are always welcoming me. And
அவங்களுக்கு
the
இல்ல
look of the look of huh?
அவங்களை திட்டலாம் நன்னா
இல்ல இல்ல
கோவம்.
அவங்க நம்ம அந்த கண்ணுல பார்க்கும்போது they look like they are looking straight into your soul, and
Correct.
they just giving you love which is so pure. I mean, a cat, I've had cats, I had dogs. Cat is very shana. She wants to lie down, she'll rub herself and she wants to eat, and then don't disturb me kind of attitude is there. But the dog is always so happy to see you. I wish everybody is like that.
I wish too. Genre of music that you enjoy the most.
Light classical. I mean, because I've sort of grown up with that. That's what I enjoy. Identifying what's a raga and then really enjoying how this person is pulling off the raga and certain familiarity with the tune, but wow, something after that.
One important lesson learned while behind the camera.
Camera never lies.
Have you ever wanted to be before the camera?
I don't think I'm very obedient, and I don't think I'm that. I have dead eyes, so my emotions don't really come through my eyes. It comes through my body and my speech. So I would be a wooden actor.
Don't be so sure. One
Now anyway, I can only be heroine's father, so it doesn't matter.
one
Like my mother said, 57வது வயசுல நீ போய் பாடி இருக்கேன் ஆனா குரல் 30 வயசா இருக்குன்னு சொன்னாங்க. So that's what my mother.
Somebody's second love.
Very interesting. I will certainly consider. I think Gautam is also telling me I should act in his film. So
We look forward.
yeah.
So this question, poor thing, you cut me every time I started to ask you. Now I have to ask you this. One uncontrollable deterrent that can make an outstanding shot.
Bad acting. If an actor acts badly, you're gone. Awful.
It can really mar, right? It can
Yeah,
really.
I mean, you can have the best light, the best thing, an awful dialogue rendered in an awful sound can just ruin everything. This is just sometimes the awkward voice can kill it. You can at least dub it, but badly acted shot, you can't save it.
Right. A film that you wish you had directed.
Godfather. I really love God. And in Tamil, I like its adaptation, Tevar Magan. I really like Tevar Magan.
You think so? It's the same? I still think it's great.
Yeah, but not the same. It's not I mean, it's inspired like that.
Yeah, it's
Father, son. Father dies, son takes over.
Can we take some questions from the audience, Rajiv?
Sure.
Soundarya Anand asks, cinematographers-la உங்களுக்கு யாரோட work ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும்?
I like Roger Deakins very much. I like Emmanuel Lubezki. In India, there's so many good people. I like PC. I like Santosh's work. I like Ravi's work. And now amongst young people, I mean, the Shaiju Khalid does good work. There's my own students who are doing extremely good work. And for students of MFI, I have done remarkably well. I really like the work of, I mean, what Kakamute Manigandan has done. Or my own student Swapnil's work in Sacred Games is so good. So I like a lot of people's work. And I think cinematography is really evolving in our country, and internationally too, it's becoming less gimmicky and more things. So Roger Deakins and Vittorio Storaro are my kind of people, but now I watch a lot of Emmanuel Lubezki and things like that.
Ravichandar Lakshmi Narayanan, would our cinema be richer musically if our music directors did more raga-based tunes like Naushadji or Khayyam?
Yeah, there are two sides to it, because raga is a limitation. It sort of puts a framework to go inside it. So there are people who believe raga is a good way to go, And there is the other school, which even in that time had Salil Chaudhary. So ye sajna barkha bahar aaye raste titara. Now, what ragam is this? Hey, Sajna. That is so you can only do that when you're using two knees and two mas and all that kind of stuff. So he didn't believe in ragas, but he knew the ragas, but he was not tied down by the ragas. That's what made Salil Chaudhary so significant. And he was the only music director who could succeed in Tamil, Malayalam, and Bengali and Hindi that time, And he managed to convince us that Malayalam folk is Jagara Tarapuratini Ulsavamahi Jagara Taran Tatam 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 Tatam. Brilliant. And he also did raga basic. So I don't know whether raga based is the savior. Raga is one kind of way. I think music should grow and people should look at new ways of looking at things.
Rakshana, she asks, how did you construct Meenakshi? Being a male
Character. Yeah. I think Meenakshi's character was based on, Marianne's character, who is expressive and open and defiant and states her point of view, whereas Eleanor was more subdued. So Meenakshi is that person. So do I state, I will get my love, I will state it. So when you have that, you started in everything. So the first sequence inside the water, I'm going to fall in love with a man I meet, and I'm going to fall in love, and that's the way it should be. And you can't just get married. And Tabu saying that, Soumya saying, well, I didn't choose to be a woman. I didn't choose my name. How can I choose the man who's going to come in my life? Okay, so there's two sides of it. So Meenakshi represents that aspect of her. So Nattadum Roja Indre Pukanam. So she wants to plant the rose as well as it should bloom the same day, and she's that thing. So the beauty of filmmaking in India is that you need to take a character into your lyrics. So you've got to work with the lyric writer. You've got to get that, and that has to come in the music director. So there is such a joy in making films the Indian way with songs. And if you like poetry, if you like tunes, if you like all that, it's an absolute delight to make films.
Manavalan Ranga, oh my God, he's inviting you and me to have specially made Italian food whenever next time in Milan.
Wow. Well, definitely.
Yes, Rajiv, we are at the end of it. Thank you for your 1 hour, so sumptuous meal as it was. Do you have anything to say to your ardent fans, or should we say the people who have made what you are today, with their love and admiration and adulation?
I think I'm just grateful that I've got this opportunity to speak to you, and I think if there is something that could connect people with music, I think you singing a small portion from Mate would be appropriate in this particular case. So come on, let's see your Khamaj coming out.
Mate Malaya Dwaja Pandya Sanjate Matanga Vadana Guha Mate Malaya Dwaja Pandya Sanjate Matanga Vadana Guha Shatodari Shankari Chamundeshwari Chandrakalaadhari Taye Gauri Dada Nidada Ni
Superb, superb, superb.
Thank you, Rajiv. Why don't you sing a line of maybe Kadavalam Nan? Or maybe the Sahana one, your new baby?
Okay, okay, yeah. So it's just a, it's what do you call? தனி தனிமையில் நாமும் தவித்திட போதும் இனி வரும் காலமெல்லாம் இனிமையை கேட்டேன் தூது செல்லாயோ நிழலே என் காதலை சொல்ல தூது செல்லாயோ நிழலே 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 நிழலே.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to finish with Sahana. Thank you, Rajiv, for being so lucid in your expressions and enlightening us on so many different aspects that contribute to beautiful filmmaking. No wonder, really, that each of your creations have left us with such big impacts, imprints in our minds. Thank you for having accepted my invitation. My team thanks you as well. And I'm sure your music will grow as much as your cinematography will.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure talking to you, and it's a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Bye. Good night.
Bye bye.
How many of his films have left stark images of beautiful shots in our mind? It is this creativity that enhances the beauty and presentation and makes the moments from the cinema linger in our hearts. When art and aesthetic they blend together and merge, I think the result has to be beauty. A beauty that finds itself a place in the crevices of our heart and makes us rewind and replay in our minds the picture that has been painted so stunningly by the Creator. To really express my joy in so many words to Rajiv for all that he has shared with us. So, once again, thank you, Rajiv. And let's meet again soon, maybe the next fortnight after Nitya's freshness and Rajiv's visuals through his spoken word. I think Expressions Espresso is even more colorful and richer. Catch you again in the next episode. Follow my Facebook and YouTube handles for the past episodes. In the meanwhile, remember to continue the SMS, sanitizers, masks, and social distancing. It is up to us to take all the precautions to keep the environment safe for us and for the people around us. Ta-da! For now, until next.